Good morning, it's Jim from the maverickstar Observatory. I'm going to discuss something again a little bit different, but I think you're going to enjoy it. What we're going to try and avoid on this channel is discussing things that are speculative, and try and focus more on the lines of facts. And I'll just say here at the beginning, big thanks to those that have supported us over the years. From time to time we discuss other things, and we're going to do so today. We're going to discuss the Anunnaki, as in the title it explains. But before we do, just a big thank you to those few people, and even ever few people now, because of, I believe, only COVID-19. The support is slowly dwindling away. And of course, I'm not surprised, because we're in the UK. You switch on the TV, you see, can you sponsor the donkeys that are working too hard in these third world countries because they're having to carry all this weight up the hills, and they've got bad hooves on their feet, and you can support them. You can support the Macmillan Trust. You can support children who don't have clean drinking water. You can also support people that have cleft palates, and you just name it. There is a charity asking right now for some support off you. So it's no wonder that people like me at this small observatory really get pushed out of hearing distance. So I'll just mention that there is a link there if you want to support what we do, and we are covering probably one of the major anomalies that humanity has ever faced, and that is given the fact that we've only been on this earth for at least 200,000 years, according to mainstream scientists, and the way we have evolved. But I know there are arguments to that state that we've been here millions of years. Well, we will at one point get into that that itself, but for now I just wanted to talk about the Anunnaki and a fact that is related to the Anunnaki. Now, who are the Anunnaki? Well, according to the ancient human beings, the Sumerians, the Anunnaki were those who came from the heavens. Now, before we go any further, if we just knew that about the Sumerians, we could say that they maybe were speculative. We could look into that statement that is made on the clay tablets, that one of the people that studied this more than anyone else, I believe, was Zecharia Sitchin. He spent most of his life decoding these clay tablets, and one of the reasons you might want to put things down in clay like the Sumerians did is that they do certainly last the test of time. Even papyrus from the Egyptian period has not lasted very well, but there is a lot of information removed from the papyrus from it simply not farewelling too good, even though despite the Egyptians were very good at embalming things. Even their writings on papyrus haven't lasted and fared too well. So the Sumerians were right to put it down in a clay form, because it's going to last a lot longer. But one of the things which is really controversial about what they talk about on these tablets, and that was decoded from Zecharia Sitchin, who was attacked massively throughout his life for what he was revealing. And it's not a surprise, because these were the first civilized human beings on our planet, the Sumerians, and what they're telling us is something that does definitely contradict some of the things that are put in our Bibles. So you might be a devout Christian, or a devout Catholic, or a devout Muslim. It really doesn't matter. I'm not a theologian. I have read an English version of the Quran. I've read our King James Bible many times. I've read lots of other Bibles like the Jehovah's Witness version. I haven't read a Torah, and I'm not sure if you can get a Torah in English. But if there was a copy out there, perhaps I might indulge some time in reading that as well, because I just find it interesting what goes into these religions, and that encapsulates the thoughts of millions that follow these religions. So getting back to facts with relationship to the Anunnaki, one thing that stands out massively to me is their description of the solar system. You can see encircled here on the tablet, and the question mark at the side of it and the arrow pointing to it, that is our solar system as they knew it then. And you can see the tablet a little bit below that where it was enlarged from or blew up from. Now, the Anunnaki taught the Sumerians. We know that because that is what they written in the clay tablets. And one of the things that was taught was the solar system. And one of the things that gets me, or just completely baffles me, is the fact that they talk about the outer planet Pluto. And they describe its orbit, and they also describe its colour. They say it's like a jade green. And the big point of this is, only in the last 30 years of us having the space telescope Hubble have we been able to confirm that. Yeah, these Sumerians have not been on our planet for thousands of years. The descendants might still be here today, but we certainly don't know how they knew that, other from what they told us, that they was taught by the Anunnaki, who from the heavens came. That is a fact, and a proven fact to date. We know now that what the Sumerians was taught by the Anunnaki was correct. And these were supposed people that didn't have telescopes. Even with a good telescope today, if you spent even thousands on a telescope, you're not going to see the colour of Pluto. We need stuff like the Space Telescope Hubble, and we've only confirmed that in the last 30 years. So, we have had reports going back many thousands of years from, our distant families visiting us and teaching us. And, the Sumerians was told that the Anunnaki came from a planet called Nibiru. And the interesting thing about this is we can find some of these promises that was probably kept in religion to last the test of time within Bibles that we read today. And it is very interesting. I'm going to bring you something out of the King James Bible to your attention, just for your opinions on, because I think it's clear cut. But let's have a look at that, what that is. So this is one of many of the chapters in the King James Bible that has kept me fascinated, and for today in this video, I just want to point out what it states in chapter 21 of Revelations in the King James Bible. And you can clearly see it talks about a city which is called Jerusalem, or the Lamb's wife, which descends from the heavens. Clearly states that, but it also gives a description, and the description which it gives is the foundations of this city. It tells us the dimensions of the city, the X, Y and Z coordinates of the shape of that city, which in my view has to be square, because if you have the width and the height and the breadth all equal measures, then it can only build a cube, and that shape is 100, and the length of this city, or the breadth and the width, are all equal to 144 cubits. At all special important number, which is mentioned more than once in the Bible, and for that reason caught my attention, because I'm into numerology, and of course we know that if you add up 144, 1 plus 4 plus 4 gives us the number 9, and we know from the work I've done in the universal equation that tells us something else may be going on here. I don't think it's speculation. It mentions the number 144 many times, mentions that this number of people in the Bible that are chosen to be servants of God are of the number 144, that they're made up of 12,000 and 12 tribes of each 12,000. Well, there is 12 tribes, and each tribe makes up 12,000 people. And on the on the structure of this, which can only be, in my view, described as a spacecraft, on the structure of this device there are 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the west, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the north, and they have guarding each gate an angel, and the name of the angel is the same of the names of each of the 12 tribes. So you can, as you have seen me build this picture, which is being described in this book before, which I'll just briefly show before I end the video, my build-up of what has been described pictorially, right? And we know from that drawing that we have seen many crop circles laid on the ground. But I just wanted, before I move on from this, right, there is mention again, just like in the Sumerians' time, objects descending, but it's not the first time that such a thing is mentioned in the Bible. If we go back to Ezekiel sitting by I think it's the river Euphrates, he sees an object which he describes as being wheels within wheels descending from the heaven, and it is accompanied by what he describes can only be, in his view, angels, or perhaps even gods, but I think he describes them as angels, and they have the face of a lion on one side of the head, and on the, or it could be the helmet, but on the other side it is a human, and on the other side there is another animal, and again, a description of something descending from the heavens. Now we know there is a fact in all what we've discussed today, and that is that the Sumerians knew the outer colour of Pluto, our planet in our solar system, the last one, which has been debated recently in our times as not even being a planet because it's not big enough. Well, they said it was a planet, and they knew the colour of that planet, and they told us. And this was knowledge from thousands and thousands of years ago, only to be reconfirmed in our time within the last 30 years with the use of the spacecraft, or space telescope Hubble, which confirmed the colour of Pluto. So, when you think about people that talk about crop circles, aliens, entities from other worlds, you've even heard me say, that I had an extraordinary experience one day in broad daylight around, I don't know, probably about 10, 11 o'clock on the morning, standing with, and thank Godfully, with my father at the time, because even if I'd have saw what I'd have saw on my own, I would have doubted it. But thank goodness, seconds after what we saw, which was an orb around about 1 metre in diameter, pearl in colour, like the colour of a real pearl, come floating past us about 15 feet away. We got a good look at it. It wasn't making any noise whatsoever, and this was deliberately avoiding objects. It came from around the tree. I don't know how fast would I say it was going, probably about 6 miles an hour, and then increased its altitude to go over the roof of the property, and we didn't see it again. But as soon as it passed and it went over the roof of the house, I turned around to my dad and I said, "Did you just see that?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Can you explain so I'm not going crazy what I have just saw?" And he said, "It was a ball, a white ball." I said, "How big was it?" He said, "It was about that big." I said, "Well, how did it manage to go over the roof and not hit the house if it was just like something like a balloon or something?" He says, "I don't think it was a balloon." The object had no noise. We don't know what it was, to be honest. I've spent to this day, and this happened, I could work out, I could tell you the exact day it happened, but we don't know to this day what it was. I have pondered, maybe after millions and millions of years of evolution of intelligent species, then we don't even, if this object had the ability to fly with anti-gravity, because we know balls are not aerodynamically designed to fly, at even 15 miles an hour at least. I mean, obviously you can hit a golf ball a great whack and get it to travel, but it's going to eventually come back down. They are not aerodynamic in any form. They do cut through the air, but if there's any mass with it, it's coming back down to the earth. This thing levitated without any noise. And I said, like today, I even pondered what it was. Is it an advanced human being? Is it a drone from a civilized race that are examining things on our planet, but why did we have the opportunity to see? And if it was of any intelligence, it knew that me and my father were able to see it clearly and watch it as it just went past. It was like answering a question for me. From that day on, I knew that there was technologies or even species much more advanced than ours. Just like the Sumerians was given that opportunity to have and be taught by the Anunnaki back in their day, but the Anunnaki didn't look like what me and my father saw. And that's why I said, you know, maybe over millions and millions of years we may evolve to be just spheres, which is really in space a natural shape. If you like watch the astronauts on the space shuttle or on the ISS, International Space Station, when they're playing with water and they're squirting it out of little tubes of their drinks, you see it form a perfect sphere. It's a natural shape when the forces are equally applied to it, and that is what you get in zero gravity. You get natural forces applied in all directions, and of course if you've got water, it will take up the natural form of a sphere or a bubble shape. On the Earth, a good example of this naturally occurring thing, albeit in 2D formation, and I've showed you this as well, and this is really why we can disprove, you know, these flat Earth theorists, these crazies that believe we live in the same times as when Christopher Columbus had to go and prove, you know, the Earth weren't round and go and sail over to, you know, South Americas, and, you know, obviously he never fell off any edge, so lo and behold, we live on a round planet now. But you know, it really disproves that, and you can do that. Just get a little bit of oil and put a bit of food colouring in the oil, and then fill up a little bowl of water and put a few droplets of the oil in the water. Yes, I know what some scientists, if they're watching this, are going to say to me, Gene, you're talking about a hydrophobic reaction between the water and the oil. Yes, but the point is, it is a hydrophobic reaction which is applied to the surface area of the oil, and therefore equally presses into it to make it form a two-dimensional sphere or a flat pool of oil contained with the electric force of the water, or the hydrophobic force of the water being applied to the oil, keeping it in those round droplets. So maybe, getting back to it, I know I've had to explain a few other things there to get you back on probably line of thought with me. Maybe, you know, we eventually do evolve into a species that is of a pearl colour and about 1 metre in diameter. And if you do a bit of research, you know, you may find in places like Bosnia, there's a river where there's a load of these I can't remember the name of it, but they're balls, they're concrete balls or stone balls, perfectly round, or in not so many cases not perfectly round, but they are baffling people as to what they was used for, because they're like almost the diameter of what I described of the object I saw, and they are found all over the world. Another thing about Christopher Columbus is, don't you think he would have found it very, or even the Vatican would have found it very odd that, you know, they would have had the knowledge of Egypt's pyramids, and that they, when they travelled from the oceans, across the oceans, that they found more people building pyramids? Isn't that sort of like proof that there was communication at some point on our Earth, even though we were separated through vast distances of oceans? And at some point we got amnesia and even took it upon ourselves to start thinking that the Earth was flat, and we needed to prove that it wasn't. Don't you think that's odd, that in Egypt we've got pyramid builders, and in South America, in Mexico, I'm talking about the Mayans building pyramids, and even in King Capel's burial chamber, on his esophagus lid is a depiction of something that really stands out in time and shouldn't be there. It's a guy which almost appears to be riding a spacecraft. He's got, and you can see that there are pipes coming off this craft going to his nostrils, and there is like a thrust type device on the back of this object. So what I'm saying is that, you know, there are many facts in our history that tell us that we have been visited by other people. And if we know that today, why don't we make more of an effort to try and recommunicate with them? Why don't we show them that we are ready to leave the nursery and begin the next level of becoming part of our universal family? And what we see is a lot of corruption today, which just stops us dead in our tracks. Science is not really something that people believe is worth investing a lot of time in, yet in some circumstances we do. If we look at some of the developments now into nuclear fusion, there's billions of pounds being spent on that right now, and I think they got it wrong from the start. I don't think they're ever going to create sustainable fusion. The reason for that is because they are working off the analogy that the sun is a fusion reactor. I've discussed this as well before, and the reason why that can't be the case is because there's just a lack of neutrinos to support nuclear fusion taking place on the sun. My theory is that the sun has exploded millions of years ago, and it's exploded at the speed of light, and that's why it's frozen. And that's why only very few particles in the photosphere, what we call it, now are able to leave it, because they do actually leave at the rate of the explosion once they get past the photosphere of the sun, and it's only at that point that they travel out. The rest is still locked in a speed which is frozen, the explosion of the sun. And when we see stars supernova is when the entire star slips out of that speed, only probably by milliseconds and millimiles an hour, that it's able to supernova and go through its explosion process. But the fact when it did explode, it was frozen in time because of the speed of the explosion. That's my take on it. It should be refreshing to some people to have another explanation as to why the sun is working the way it is, but for the standard model of fusion, nuclear fusion, it just isn't supported, and has been talked by many scientists for the fact that we just don't simply have the right amount of neutrinos coming off it. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the topic of conversation. It's a little bit off the beaten track from the things that we usually talk about on this YouTube channel, and I just think that there is a lot of interest from people, and that we don't have to always talk about the magnetic reversal. If you want the latest on that, we've got a dedicated web page for that, and it also incorporates a lot of other anomalies that we've got, such as the Arctic sea ice extent, which is uploaded daily. We've got precipitation maps, satellite maps, radar maps, temperature maps. We've got sea surface temperature, we've got volcanoes, earthquakes, all the data which is updated regularly, daily, including that of the main topic, which is the magnetic reversal. So we have the TriMag, we have global data on the magnetometers that we've got in America and Australia and Hong Kong and here in the UK. We have magnetosphere strength monitoring. We've got loads, guys. So we can have the affordability of just coming back down to roots level or grassroots level and discussing some of these important things that have happened in our ancient civilization, how they reflect in our modern day. And I think that that's refreshing to discuss, because I know a lot of people have their thoughts at this moment in just trying to secure food for the family at this time where we are facing a global pandemic and a great loss of life of up to now just over 300,000 people. It is a shame. It is a shame more so that this is a man-made virus that has got out of hand, that has escaped Wuhan in China and has spread throughout the world, and we weren't given the knowledge of that in time to do something about it. And now many more as a result of that will die over a long period of time. Now I know a lot of our governments are telling us that we're over the peak on this, but yes, what they managed to do is flatten the peak, but when you flatten the peak you prolong the time period at which you have then to deal with the virus. And now from the start we could have seen this go through herd immunisation, would have killed a lot more people faster, and a lot more people overall, but with the change of strategy of social distancing and a few of the measures that have been put in place, we have managed, I believe, inevitably at the end of all this, save some lives. But what we haven't done is removed the peak, we've only flattened it, and so we've extended it over a long period of time. We've got to deal with that, so bear that in mind. We're still working on equipments that can perhaps help social distancing, like the air-fed visor, which is similar to the hazmat visor, but only a very, very cheaper version that does the same sort of job, hopefully. And we have come up with an attachment that you can click onto a vacuum cleaner and then screw on a biological warfare filter, which is more than capable of up to the job, and then run your vacuum cleaner, which will clean the air in your rooms of your homes, or in care homes, or in hospitals. It is a if nothing else, it is a solution. And even though it's a small solution to this problem, it is still a solution, and that's what we like to do: talk about facts and provide solutions to these issues that we're facing. So we're doing everything we can here. We've also got colloidal silver generators, and the reason I've invested my time into building one for myself, and I've built now 14 in total. We've got another 3 ordered, and we've got enough to build another 4. So if you're interested in those, just put the money in the link in the description and I'll build you one. I've had the 3D printer now running 24 hours a day for the last 3 days, printing off the Mark II prototypes, and they do home in on the holy grail of producing colloidal silver water for you to drink. And it's very safe for you to drink. Me and my wife have been drinking this now for months, and we have had no effects, and we pretty much clear a litre of it every couple of days. We've got the facilities to produce, with the generator to produce a good litre every day, but we run it a little bit longer for just a slightly more enriched silver solution. And like I say, the holy grail of that is getting it the voltage and the milliamps right down low, and teasing away these silver ions off the silver rods gently, and then having them dispersed from the rods by the bubbler. And that makes our generator unique to a lot of the others on the market. So yeah, if you want one of those, it's £80 £85 if you're in the UK. That includes postage and packaging. If you're in the States or elsewhere, it's £95, and you can put that in the description down there. Or if you just want to make a donation to what we do and discuss on there, then the link's there, guys. I'm just going to say one other thing. You have a great day. I hope you've enjoyed some of the contents in this video that we've did, and I'll say what I usually do. Have a great time, look after your loved ones, and as always, bye for now.